Friends of Merlin Woods promotes the positive use of Merlin Woods and its connected meadowlands and works towards attaining the highest possible designation for the environmental protection the area so richly deserves.
How you doing? My name is Caroline Stanley from Friends of Merlin Woods, and I'm here today with Colin, who we'll be meeting in a bit. And we're just going to talk about what is flying about at the moment, what flowers are around, and show you some of the things. It's a bit of a dull day, so we're not going to see a lot of butterflies flying, but we might see the odd dragonfly sitting down. So we'll just see what we can see. Thanks. So this is one of the species of orchid we have here in Merlin Woods. This is a bee orchid, and these can be seen in maybe 5-6 different locations around the woods now at this stage. And all this happens because the verges are allowed to grow, and there's only the cutting regime is that the grass is cut at the end of the summer. So these have been lying in the soil, and we've been working on a cutting regime here for the last 7 years, and we have seen the verges get better and better, more and more orchids. And if you pan around here, you'll be able to see the common spotted orchids, which are coming up in abundance everywhere. Down here, a couple of species as well. That one is a common spotted orchid, and that would be the one we see the most of, and that is easy enough to identify as well. You can see the spotted leaves on most of them. Sometimes you do get hybrids, which can make it difficult.
Hi there, I'm Colin Stanley from Friends of Merlin Woods, and I'm going to talk to you about this limestone area here we're sat in and some of the inhabitants of it. So in these pots I've got a couple of bees. So you can see in the pot with the red lid I've got a male common carder bee, and it's feeding on a bit of bush vetch there. And in the pot with the yellow lid you can see the much smaller size. That's the same species of bee, but it's a worker. So you can see it's much smaller, and I don't know if you can see from the video there, but you can see the little pollen baskets on its back legs. It's quite a common little bee, but a nice bee nonetheless. I'm going to let the worker go for a moment, just because it's been in there a little while now. Hopefully you might get a look of it as it comes out.
Doesn't want to come out.
So that's a common carder bee worker. You can see it's got a gingery front here, and there's another bee that looks very similar to this, but it's much blonder looking. This has black hairs all over the back legs and the thorax there. Oh, sorry, the abdomen.
Okay.
I'll put him down here on a bit of bird's foot trefoil. He doesn't want to leave now.
I'll just scan around. This is the limestone area.
There he goes. He's feeding.
Oh, there you go.
Quite happy.
Feeding away on some
This
birds.
one we can have a proper look at. So, there we go. You can see from the front of this one's face, he's got yellow hairs on the front of his face, so that indicates to me that it's a male. He's actually, the small flower in there is bush vetch, and these bees, the common carder bees, just find the bush vetch irresistible at this time of year. If you ever see a patch of it, it'll probably be covered on them, especially on a sunny day. But I don't know, can you see his face there with the yellow hairs that I'm talking about? Beautiful bumblebee. And
Just had a visitor.
the beauty with these, once you know they're males, when you identify a bee, once you know it's a male, you'll know that it can't sting you because the males don't possess a sting. So that's one of the advantages with learning how to identify bumblebees. So in here in this little pot we've got a keeled skimmer dragonfly. You see it there? You see the little yellow spots at the end of its wings? That's what tell me that this is a keeled skimmer, not a black-tailed skimmer. You see the ridge, the black ridge down the centre of its back. That's the other thing that we're looking at with the keeled skimmer. We do quite well in Merlin Woods for dragonflies. This is one of 9 different species we have in here. So it's a great place for dragonflies if you want to come and look at them at all. I'll try and let this guy out and see if you can get a clear view of him on my hand for a second or two.
He may fly off.
He may well fly off. Oh, he did fly off. Oh well.
And why do you think they're here in this area, in the limestone area, today?
Well, today they're here in this limestone area because it's very sheltered. It's quite a breezy day. And it's also a very good place for them to warm up on the limestone itself.
So we're here in a limestone area which is similar to what you find in the Burn, and this is in the northwards of Merlin Woods. And you can see the limestone pavement here. So there's a lot of different species here compared to other parts of the woods. So what we started was a conservation project working on different areas, and we used woodland coppicing. So these hazels here would have been coppiced. So this is about 3 years growth, and they would have grown from the base. So we'll have to come back and revisit this area and coppice these once again to keep this area clear, because we'd have a lot of devil's bit scabious, wild thyme, we have Caroline thistle, you know, so various, and early purple orchid is the only area it grows in here. And just recently, and part of the conservation project is about increasing our species of butterflies to the woods. So we were looking to try and maybe encourage things like pearl bordered fritillaries or the dark green fritillaries, and see, and maybe the marsh fritillary might perhaps even start breeding here in this area, because there's a lot of devil's bit scabious. But the big surprise we got this week was that we discovered a small blue butterfly, which is Ireland's smallest butterfly, and we actually found it just by rummaging around in this area here. And the small blue butterfly actually feeds on kidney veg, which we would have very small pockets of it around the woodland. So it's kind of a dilemma to kind of know why it's here. Is it feeding on kidney veg? And where is the kidney veg in this area? Because you can't imagine that a small blue would actually fly too far.
There you are, for everybody to see you.
Like,
But that was really, really lovely. What's really lovely is that is not a million miles away.
no,
for
and
people
it's
to go
like
to.
Amazing.
it is. It's only on the edge of the city, really. You know.
Yeah, and I think that you've done amazing work, and I know that you've been at a lot of our volunteer fairs, you know, looking for people to volunteer with you, and I couldn't recommend it more, because pockets like that are so important to the city.
We'd be encouraging more wildlife areas around the city to create corridors to link them up. You know.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
There seem to be more butterflies at this stage than what they were last year at this time.
Well, with butterflies, it's very hard to define what is the impact, because say we would do a transect year on year.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes what happens is the weather is very bad in the summer, so we would have low numbers last year, very low numbers. But this year we had quite a good heat, early heat, and then it got cool again, so the numbers have dropped again. You know, but that could also be. There's just so many different factors. So like the butterfly transects have been running in Ireland for about 10 years, and they are linked in with Europe and with the UK. UK, I think, have been doing it probably maybe 15, 20 years, you know, so they really have a handle on the butterflies. But the butterfly is a really good indicator of climate change. And one of the things you know, like we're trying to build up habitat there that's a bit more perfect for some other butterflies. And what we're seeing is some of the migratory species, like some of the dragonflies said that would be migrants to Ireland, have started to move from the south up to the west now, you know, so we have the emperor dragonfly. So there's real indicators of climate change as insects start moving up the country, you know, as the weather warms and
Interesting, yeah.
you know, so it's really, insects are really interesting in that sense. But like the habitats, butterflies, the problem with butterflies is butterflies need specific plants to survive. So their caterpillar needs the, you know, say like the one that we found there this week, the small blue, the kidney vetch, it needs that not only to feed on, you know, for food, but for its larval, its caterpillar. And there's very little of that in Merlin Woods. So for us, it's a bit of a kind of like, where is this butterfly coming from? It's so small, you can't imagine it traveling 20 miles just to come to Merlin Woods to feed on some flower. You know, it isn't like that. So somewhere in there has to be a larval food plant, you know. So that's one of our things we'll be looking for. But it's butterflies, you know, so every time, say some of our butterflies, the species like a nettle, it's the host food plant for the caterpillars for maybe 5 species. So every time someone cuts back a nettle, they are basically eliminating butterflies from that area they live in.
Oh,
Wow, I didn't know
So
that.
that's kind of the message we're trying to get across. And you know, we use butterflies because people like butterflies and things, but then there's things like hoverflies and sawflies, different types of flies. And if their food plant is gone, you know, with all these clearing of hedges and things, say in farming communities, then you wipe out the species. So species are being wiped out. So when they talk about insect decline, getting rid of some of those plants, these wild plants that people look on as weeds, it's trying to get that perception change. You know, that's really where we'd be coming from now these days, is about protecting the plants itself that the species need to live on. You know, so that's really the message. You know, people talk about saving the bees, but bees can go to any plant for food. Whereas butterflies, hoverflies, sawflies, you know, all these different things, they need a specific plant. And these are the ones that are being eliminated, whether it's the use of Roundup or cutting back your grass, all, you know, to go short. So that's kind of where we are with it at the moment.
amazing.
Awareness of the need for green places, the link between our health and our environment, the collapse of biodiverse species because of the threats to habitats.
Today I'm in Merlin Meadows here in Merlin Park Woods, and I'm sitting among hundreds of common spotted orchids, bee orchids, and all sorts of wildflowers. We've over 60 different species here in this meadows alone that we have counted and recorded over the last few years. And these semi-natural grasslands are under serious threat across Ireland from agricultural intensity farming and from urban development. And this is a meadows that we fought hard to save because it's it's in public ownership, it's part of an existing woodland park, and it's a recreational community area, and many people use the area for walking and running and just for their mental health as well. So it is an immense and important area. This is the bee orchid, and some of you may have seen it on our previous video when we were in the Northwoods, where we'd seen a couple of bee orchids in different locations. But within the meadows we would have hundreds of them dotted around the place. And what they do is they come up in these areas because of the type of grassland we have here and the type of conditions. And some say that it takes 9 years for one bee orchid to flower. And if you come back and try and find it in the same location the year after, you may not find it. So you might have to go and look for it in a different location. So we're always scouting around trying to look for the bee orchids. The next one we've got here is the common spotted orchid. And this can come in many different shades of colours, but one of the features of it is the spots on the leaves. And I'm not sure if this one's a good example, but we've just picked ones here that are close by each other. And this comes up just before the bee orchids, and we would have literally thousands and thousands of them here in the meadow fields. The next one we're moving on to is the pyramidal orchid, and this is a beautiful bright pink colour, and these have just started to appear here, and this is the last orchid we'd find in the meadows to come up. So it's a beautiful pink colour, and because we've just had some rain now, that should help some of the orchids to live a little bit longer, because we've had 8 weeks or so of drought conditions, which can sometimes cause the flowers to go over much quicker. If we move over here to the left, we've got the yellow rattle, and this yellow rattle is the meadow maker. This is what helps our grasslands and wildflowers to grow. It takes some of the grasses away that would swamp wildflowers normally. So it's a very, very good plant. If you were trying to increase wildflower, we always say put some yellow rattle seeds in September after you've cut your grass. This is the O'Kelly spotted orchid, and it would be a subspecies of the common spotted orchid. And we would have a good few of those around here, and some very high specimens when the weather isn't so dry. And it would be kind of known to the west of Ireland more so than a lot of areas in Ireland. If you get a chance, please come and visit the meadows, have a walk around. It's actually one of the most fantastic times of the year to come and see it, because we've got all sorts of wildflowers coming up at the moment, and the orchids are here, and the orchids usually finish around the end of June, July. So please get up and visit. You'll see things like oxeye daisy, the self-heels, bird's foot trefoil, the breezia media quaking grass, which is an amazing grass as well. So get up and have a walk around and come and visit Merlin Park Meadows and see what it looks like.
Hi there, I'm Colin Stanley from Friends of Merlin Woods, and also from the Galway Butterfly Project. Today I'm out here in Menlo, next to the lake. It's a really beautiful spot. If you haven't been here, I highly recommend that you come here. It's really lovely. First thing I want to point out, the reason I've come here at the moment, is these little beauties down here. Oh, I don't know, did you see that there? There was just a grasshopper there as well. It's just hiding just behind there. I think it's a common field grasshopper, but that's not what I was actually going to talk about. These here are marsh helleborines, and they grow here in Menlo. A beautiful orchid, and really lovely to see. One of the only spots I know sort of locally to me where I find them growing, so they're always nice to see. And I've got a couple of things here also in pots that I caught with the net a few minutes ago. Just want to show them to you. So they're both common species, and they're both common grassland species. This is the meadow brown, very common species now. Almost every brown butterfly you see is probably a meadow brown, but there are a few other ones to consider as well. But all these brown species all use various grasses for their larval food plants. I'll just try and get this one out so you can see it for a minute if it settles on my hand. Oh, there he's gone. So that's the meadow brown. It's a brown and orange butterfly, and a lot of these ones now are brown and orange, but this second one here, this is a ringlet, and this is more brown. You can see from the rings on the underside of its wings where it gets the name from. So that's a ringlet, and again another common grassland species here. And while we're not really in grassland here, we're sort of between the bog and the lake, but there are quite a few grasses and things like that here. So a lot of these species occur too, as well as some of the more individual species that you get associated with bogs, like the marsh helleborine. So here's the ringlet. It's a beautiful little butterfly. I really do love the rings, and most of these butterfly species are named after how they look. They use their distinguishing features to name them. So there he goes, the ringlet. Nice to see. So this is the small tortoiseshell butterfly. This is also another one of the species that lays its eggs on nettles, so the caterpillars eat nettles. It's a very beautiful butterfly, but quite common again. This one is actually one of the hibernators. A lot of people don't realise, but some of our species can actually hibernate for the winter. This one has quite a long flight period. It can be out from February all the way, you can see it all the way to November. You might see it trying to get into your house in November, and it's doing that because it's looking for somewhere warm and dry to spend the winter. But the best advice is to keep them outside, because they don't cope too well with modern day heating systems. Okay, and just let that go now and just give you hopefully a better view of it. Pheasant there in the background. So there's the small tortoiseshell. It's called the small tortoiseshell because of the pattern on its back. And you can see also it's got a ring of blue circles around the outer edge of its wings. Very beautiful thing.
Ooh,
there it goes. So here we've got an interesting little gathering of peacock caterpillars. You can see here that they've all been laid on nettles, and nettles are a valuable food plant for 4 of our species of butterflies here in Ireland. Peacocks and small tortoiseshells are 2 of them. But a lot of people think of nettles as a weed, and that's the problem a lot of the time, because everyone wants to put a butterfly bush in their garden. But really, if you want to help butterflies, you have to start protecting their larval food plants, because they're plant specific. They need certain plants for certain caterpillars, and they only eat certain plants. So it's very important that these habitats where these plants are remain intact. Otherwise, we'll be losing them. So that was our visit to Menlo. It's a really special habitat out here. Like I say, the marsh helleborines. I've seen marsh fritillary butterflies out of here. I've seen all sorts of things. Usually see quite a few more dragonflies and damselflies than we've seen today. But it still might be, it's a bit cold and it's a bit early for some of them still, so we might see some later on in the year.
How you doing? I'm Caroline Stanley from Friends Merlin Woods, and today I'm going to show you some of the areas we do our butterfly transect. The butterfly transect is where we count the butterflies that we have in Merlin Woods, and we always start in Dewishka Park, just outside the woodlands for our first section. And it's just to show kind of how managed land, you know, where we have all the football grounds, tennis courts and stuff like that, where all the grass and habitats are much less better really for our butterflies. So we don't find as many species in this area. So this would be section 1, and then we'll show you section 2 then in a bit. And this is the transect form as well. And we just put in our date, time and temperature. And the temperature today is around 16 degrees, but it feels a bit cooler because of the wind. And it's blowy. So we're in the community garden, and we've just seen a ringlet here, and so the community garden is a good place. This is section 2 of our thing, and you can actually see the biodiversity goes up here Now as I say, we're a bit colder today, but because the community garden works in unison with biodiversity, we also get a good variety of butterflies using this spot because of all the wildflowers that are here, bird's trefoil and all the knapweeds and all sorts of stuff, clover, meadowsweet. So there's a good mixture here of wildflowers as well to help with the butterfly species. So we're on ringlet so far. This is the species we've seen in our transect today. Here's another one. This is meadow brown here, hiding in the grass.
Yeah, you can't really see him.
This is the third species today on our transect. This is a common blue, and it's just resting up. Normally they'd be flying around the place, but because it's a bit cooler and a bit windier, they are just kind of hanging out today. And he's a little bit worse for wear. Let's see. There you go. So it's a common blue butterfly, and one we expect to see at this time of year. We're in section 3 now of the transect, and this is along the main pathway of Merlin Park Woods. And so far we're seeing ringlets and meadow browns here, and again the habitat is really good. This is very much brilliant for like the grassland species such as meadow brown and ringlet. This is section 4 of our butterfly transect, and as you can see again it's lots of grassland here. So again we're seeing a lot of well, today we're seeing ringlets, but what we'd expect to see is meadow browns and stuff like that, and sometimes over there towards the ferns we might see peacocks and small tortoise shells. But because we're not very sunny today, we're hoping the sun will break through, but we're struggling for numbers. So it could be a lull in the season, or it could be just a sign that some of these butterflies are in decline. So we're just coming, this is section 7 of our transect. So section 5, 6 and 7 is kind of through the woodlands, and what we normally expect to see is some speckled woods. We haven't had very much sunshine, so some of the sunny areas within these the tree walks or the tree trails are not so sunny today, so we haven't seen any speckled wood. So we had 3 species of butterfly today, and that was the meadow brown, the ringlet and the common blue, which you have seen in the earlier footage. So that's just a glimpse into the butterfly transect that we do from April to September, and we have 20 different species from in different habitats and different places where you'll find butterflies. So I hope you can find out more about butterfly transects from the National Biodiversity Data Centre as well. Thanks. This week we took ourselves out to the west, and the first stop was the Red Bog Hill, and we went along with Kieran Bruton, who's a botanist, to explore the area and to see what other wildlife we could see and to look at bog habitats. Like a lot of bogs out here, you'll find the bog cotton. You also find bog asphodel, which was historically used to collect saffron. The devil's bit scabious as well, which is the larval food plant for marsh fritillary. We're out here in a bog just past Inverin, and I'm looking at a West Galway speciality plant called the St. Davia Keith. Beautiful little specimen here. The next plant we're going to look at is the common butterworth, and it has a single stemmed flower which was purple. It is a plant that catches insects, and they stick to the leaf, and the leaf rolls up and digests them. And the next one which you can find near it is the round-leaved sundew, and again it's another plant that likes to capture insects. A beautiful plant you can find out here is the English stonecrop with its red succulent leaves, and they're greener when they're younger. We also spotted this young grasshopper as well, but the jury's out yet on the identification of this one, so we'll have to wait and see. And here is us enjoying a trip around the bog. But you need your wellies because it's pretty wet terrain in certain places. Not only do you get a lovely view, but you can be lucky enough to catch kestrels hovering over the area. And here's one we saw on a telephone wire on a closer view here. The second location we stopped at was a coastal heathland, and this was to show you a variety of different plants that can be found, and to show the difference between the bog habitat and the coastal habitat. A great selection of plants, and this one here is navelworth, a beauty. Next one is samphire, and that will be one used by foragers for cooking. The scarce blue damselfly, female. Sea campion here. A stonechat, female. Ribwort plantain, common enough. And parameadow brown butterflies here mating. Yarrow, wild thyme. Tormentil. Sea aster, another beauty. Louseworth. Sea mayweed. Perennial sow thistle here as well. Bird's foot trefoil, another common enough one. Sea plantains, we already had the ribworth. And this anthill as well. And last of all, the frog. What we wanted to show you was the variety of wildlife from both places, and this is just a selection of what we saw on the day. Today we're coming from the cool Garyland Nature Reserve, and it's a place we like to come outside of the city, and we're hoping to see some interesting stuff today. This is one of the areas we come to see different types of dragonflies, different wildflowers, and it's also surrounded by a lot of oak trees here as well.
You see here, everyone, this is a common blue damselfly, one of the odonates. So odonates covers dragonflies and damselflies, and we have quite a few blue ones in Ireland, quite a few blue damselflies, about 4 or 5 to my knowledge, and this is probably one of the commonest of them all. Common bluetail, common blue damselfly, not common bluetail. There's a common bluetail as well, which is a black damselfly with a blue tail. So we'll let this one out the pot, see if it'll sit on the hand for a minute. Here in this pot we've got a ruddy darter dragonfly. So we've got 3 darters in Ireland. We've got the common, we've got the black darter, and we've got the ruddy darter. This is a male, I can tell, because it's red, and if you look more detailed you can see it's got black legs. There's another, and the distinguishing feature with this one, if you look right at the end of the end of the face there, his nose is red like Rudolph, so that's how you tell it's a male. It's the only red-faced dragonfly, small dragonfly that we see in Ireland, the male-ready darter. Once you've had a good look at him, I'll try and let him out. I'll turn him round so you can see the sides and that. So dragonflies are really interesting. You can see here this area behind us here, the loch, or the turlock. This is where all the dragonfly nymphs are living for a few years, and each species takes a different amount of time to come to maturity. So they spend quite a long time living as nymphs before they emerge as a dragonfly. So let's just try and take this lad out now. Oh. See, will he sit on my finger for a minute? He might.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful dragonfly. Tiny little thing. He's not realised he can fly off yet, but there you go. He's gone.
This is a limestone pavement area, and this is some managed grassland as well. A wide variety of wildflowers here as well.
So here we've got 2 of Ireland's 5 grasshoppers. This one with the yellow lid. This is called common green grasshopper. And you can tell that, you see the marking on the back of the head, what I would describe as the neck behind the head there. See, there's like a little white and black marking. So these grasshoppers are diagnosed by that marking. On this one it's kind of a curved mark, so we know that that one's common green. And on this one here, it's very angled, and this is quite a small grasshopper as well. I know this because I found this here before. This is a mottled grasshopper, so it's a much more scarce species than you see usually. This common green is, as the name suggests, it's a common species of grasshopper. So the 5 that we have all together is, we have this one, the common green. We have another one called the common field, which is also a very common grasshopper. This one here, the mottled, and then we've 2 marsh grasshoppers, the large marsh and the lesser marsh grasshopper. Okay, I'm just going to take these out of the pot so you might hopefully get a better look at them before they hop off. So we'll start with the common green. Now this is going to jump almost instantly as soon as I let it go. Beautiful grasshopper. You can see the keel there, the shape of the keel that I was saying. It's much more curved, and I'll show you then when we get the mottled out. It's far more angled. In fact, I'd say it's the most angled. Okay, we'll stick that one on the ground. So they're just living here in this limestone pavement. We've just caught them. There he goes, he's hopped off over there now. And then this one, do the mottled. Hopefully he's as patient as the other one. Very beautiful. They have mottled markings, these ones, and another one, I can't remember if it's either the male or the female, has what they describe as handlebar antenna. So they're like a curve at the end, like a handlebar. You can see there what I was saying about the keel. It's much more an angled shape. Beautiful grasshopper, the mottled grasshopper. I'll put that back down there. Well, have you got good footage?
I think so. Just a minute. Just make sure everyone gets a look. Okay.
There we go. Oh.
This is the woodland part of Coolgarryland Reserve. Didn't spend a lot of time in here today now, but this is a fabulous area for walking, and there's an awful lot of people that use it. So you can see fabulous old mature trees as well that are here. If you haven't been here, worth taking a walk in the area. Some really old oaks, beeches, ashes, some hollies as well, and some lovely wildflowers as well. As we said before, woodlands are a really nice place for discovering in early spring, summer. So I'll just give you a quick look around. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed what we showed you today. Thanks.